Okay, we're going to be making apple pie from scratch, so first we're going to start with the crust. So I'm going to show you how to make the crust first and then put all the pie in and how to make the filling from scratch. So stay with us and we'll be right back. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make the crust. So since I'm going to make 2 pies, I'm doubling my recipe. So I've got a cup of frozen butter here. So I first want to get it shredded up and put in the bowl. So I'll do that and then I will get back. Okay, just for ease of getting this done, you can hand grate it, and that was my first intention, but then just to make it a little easier, I'm just going to use the food processor just to make the whole dough. So first, take in my frozen butter. You want to keep your butter as cold as possible. So this is unsalted, and you just run it through your food processor here. And I will do both sticks, and I'll show you what it looks like after that so you don't have to hear the noise. Okay, so we run it on the cheese grating blade, so this little small blade here. And you can see it chunked it up pretty much. It looks like mozzarella cheese, and it's just this frozen chunks of butter, and that's what you want. Gotta keep it as cold as possible, so you really need to do this as quick as possible. So I'm going to switch blades to this chopping blade. And I'm going to add my flour and water and the rest of my ingredients to make the crust. And I'll show you what that looks like. I'm done. Okay, so I added a teaspoon of Himalayan salt, and then I added 2½ cups of flour, and then this is 1/2 cup of just cold water. So just kind of flip this away from the blade, get it processed here, and I'll show you what the dough looks like and the next step. Okay, so I just put this on. I only have 2 settings on this, so it's like semi-fast and fast. So it for about a minute, and then it just balled up, and then I shut it off. So we're going to move this into a bowl. You can see it's really clumped up good. So now we're going to take our dough, without cutting my hand on the blade here. I'm just going to kind of work it into a ball and kind of look at it to make sure everything's incorporated. And we don't want to work it too much, but okay, so you can still kind of see, if I focus it a little bit, you can kind of still see the chunks of butter that haven't been fully incorporated, and that's what you want. You want to kind of set them to where they're just kind of in there, but the water and everything else, some of the butter has made it into the ball. So we're going to take this now and go put it in the fridge because we want to keep it cold. We don't want it to get room temperature. So then we'll come back and work on the the next step is we got our pie crust remaining cold in the fridge. So next we're going to peel our apples. So we're going to use our peeler again, except I'm going to take the core end off the side. So I'm going to get this attached. We got it attached, and we're going to get our apples peeled here. So So we're not coring them, we're just going to peel them. So I'll get these peeled. I'm doing enough for 2 pies. So each recipe calls for about 5 large apples, and since these are nowhere near large apples, I'm just going to do about 10 apples. So, but I don't want them to turn brown, so I'm going to put them in the water to kind of keep them white. So I'll get these peeled and I'll show you in the next step. Okay, so we have our apples peeled. They didn't peel real great. When that apple peeler works good, it really does work good, but when it doesn't, it is irritating. So what we're going to do is just take our apple core here and just run it down the center. and just take out our cores. So, and then we're going to put them back in the water, and then I'm going to just take my knife and just peel up some of these apples. Were a little browner than they looked like when you first got them. So when I first got them, so just peel up, kind of clean them up. Then I'll show you what they look like to get them ready for the actual recipe. Okay, so we have our apples peeled and cored. So I'm just going to take my knife and just kind of peel away the rest of this small amount of peeling and kind of clean them up. So what makes kind of a good looking pie is that all the pieces in them are as close to the same size as possible. So that's what we want to do. So I'll get these cleaned up and then I'll show you what they look like and what we'll do next. Okay, so I have the apples kind of cleared up now, so I'm going to take some raw organic apple cider vinegar. I've got my bowl cleaned out, and I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of the apple cider vinegar and just kind of dust the bottom, or kind of put it in the bottom there. So when I peel the apples and slice them, I'm going to put them in here and just kind of roll the vinegar over them. Since it's apple cider, it will hopefully will be giving it more of an apple flavor as opposed to using like lemon juice as the acidity in it. So I'll get these chopped up, put in here, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we're down to the last 2 apples. So you can see I just kind of sliced them and kind of just again rolling them around in the vinegar a little bit. They've soaked up most of the vinegar, but kind of get them coated so they're kind of turning brown a lot quicker than I would prefer. If you know a better way of storing them to keep them from getting brown, when you're getting them prepared, I've heard of putting them in lemon juice and stuff, but I've heard that kind of makes your pies taste real acidic. So I've heard people also use apple cider vinegar because the acidity helps coat it, but if you use too much, it can make your pie taste vinegary, even though there are several faux apple pie recipes that use quite a bit of apple cider vinegar. So okay, so we'll get these stirred up, and we'll show you the next step. Okay, our next step is to take a pan. We're going to take a half a stick of butter, and I'm just going to heat it up. And get it melted down, and then I'll show you the next step. While the butter is getting melted, I'm taking this is just chilled butter, and I'm just going to coat the bottoms of these pans and sides. This helps the crust when it cooks to crispy up a little bit on the bottom, so it has more of a firm consistency, so it doesn't get all runny and mushy. So you can also take your wrapper here and just use this to kind of guide it. You can also just use these old wrappers. I've seen some people just take them, and when they use butter, they take them out and put them in a bag and keep that bag in the fridge, and when they need to butter something, they just pull one of the old wrappers out and butter their pans. So we'll get these up and buttered, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so we have our butter melted here. So now we want to take a half a cup of flour, and we're just going to make a roux with it. So we're going to put it back on the stove and make it into a paste. So I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so we have our roux made. The purpose of this is to kill all that kind of flour flavor. You don't want to bite into an apple pie and feel like you're eating flour. So this kind of cooks the flour a little bit more to allow it to thicken, but also to make it taste like real apple pie. So we're going to add a half a cup of sugar. This way you can blend it out a little bit, because when it mixes with the apples, you don't want the chunks of the roux. You want to be able to just kind of blend it in, and the sugar kind of helps separate the roux so it's not so hard to incorporate into the apples. So we're going to quickly add our apples here. With all the vinegar. And this is just to kind of draw the moisture out. It's not necessarily meant to cook the apples. We don't want to cook them all the way because we don't want them to be mush in the pie. We want it to be a teaspoon and a half of cinnamon. We're going to add, so we're going to put this on the stove and kind of just let it heat up and then blend together, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, so we have our pie filling made now. As you can see, oh, I did add a little over a quarter cup of brown sugar. I forgot to add it, so when it was heating I just threw it in there. Okay, so we have the bottom of our second one rolled out here. Now to get it into your pan, I just kind of rub off as most of the flour as you can, and just fold it to quarters here. You want that overdone on it, and then you just set it in your pan like that, in the middle, and kind of open it up. Well, before I do that, here, when you get your pan, or when you get your crust in the in your pan, take a little butter just on your hand like this, and just kind of warm it in your hands, and then just rub it across your bottom here as you're working your crust out. So it helps it smooth out the bottom, but it also, again, if you think about what makes your crusts soft, is the moisture from the apples, but the butter is a fat. So fat or oil and water don't mix, so I've put now butter on the bottom, but it also helps you kind of move the crust around so you can kind of fit it where you want it. So that's just a tip, and I'll get the rest of these rolled out here, and we'll done. Topping them, this is just the old-fashioned cover. As you can tell, I'm not a perfect pie decorator or pie crust maker, and you don't have to be so much. It wouldn't dough together well. So let me brush these real quick, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I have it brushed here, and I usually just take my fingers and dip it in the butter sauce, or the egg and milk mixture. And then I just kind of brush the corners here, and just kind of the wet milk and egg kind of just re-moisten the outside of the, again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it kind of makes it look a little bit better, I guess. Incorporates it into the one solid dough instead of just pieces floating around. Okay. Okay, so let me wash my